next segment, the Hula Bowl. In case you missed it, Nino's going to go ahead and break that down for you all.
All right, so before I go and break down the actual Hula Bowl, I found a couple things in here that I thought was pretty cool, right? So this game, it was the first all-female officiating crew. Thought that was pretty cool.
Clap it up for the Hula Bowl, man.
You know what I mean?
That's a W. That's a big deal.
All right. There were over 200 scouts and professionals in attendance at the game, confirmed from the NFL, CFL, USFL, XFL, and the European Football League, amongst other leagues. I believe Arena was also there as well. I know Arena's not big, but these guys get paid. And every single player received a free pair of UFOs sandals. So shout out UFOs for the donation to all the players out there. Now let's get into this game. Okay. It was Team Kaya versus Team, I always mess this up, IKEA. And these are Hawaiian names, so I apologize if I said it wrong. Team Kai, I believe it is, won 16-13. Okay. I'm going to run down Team Kai real quick, then I'll hit you with the other side. Now, coached by Brian Billick, Team Kai. All right. He had 351 yards of offense and 43 minutes of possession.
I love how the Senior Bowl does the same thing. They get NFL guys that have had success in the NFL, and you see how the tone changes from college to the NFL. It's preparing them for everything about to go through as far as the combine is concerned, being interviewed with these teams. The seriousness level goes up about 1,000%. So I love that they had Mike Smith and Brian Billick on that.
Yeah, and Smith was coach of the opposite team of Key. Now for Team Kai, quarterback was Holton Ahlers out of ECU. He was the main guy. He went 10 for 10 for 100%, 57 yards, a touchdown. He had 22 yards rushing. He was named MVP, right? He had a 20-yard rush up the left side in the first quarter, just literally spinning around guys, bouncing off dudes. It was nice to see. And he had a touchdown, I believe, to the tight end, which I'll get into a little later. The other quarterback was Tanner Morgan out of Minnesota. He went 5 for 8 for 94 yards, 63%. Two rush attempts to 10 yards. You know, a gentleman that I'm not big on, but it was nice to see him using his legs in this game. That was QB Sean Clifford from Penn State. He was 3 for 7 with 27 yards. He had 3 attempts, 15 yards, a long of 12. And that 12-yard run, I was on a straight QB keeper off the left side early in the fourth quarter. Now, I don't know if you know this, gentleman, because I only heard him a little bit this year, but in this game, they just kept calling his card. That was Christopher Brooks, running back out of BYU. He had 13 attempts for 84 yards, a 6.3 yards per carry average, and he had a long rush of 20 yards, but he had multiple runs of 10 or more. He had 2 rushes in the second quarter of 10 yards, straight up the gut, untouched until he got to about 8 or 9 yards, right? Then he had a 20-yard run to the right side of the field in the third quarter.
He'll get some luck. He'll get some looks. We seen what Algier did this year. Got the sneakiest 1,000-yard season we ever seen. Continue.
I think Christopher Brooks kind of like, you know, people say they go to the Senior Bowl to the draft stock. I think if this guy doesn't get any looks, he might even get a combine invite just off this game alone. Another running back for Team Kai is Calvin Tyler Jr. Out of Utah State. He had 11 attempts to 25 yards. He had a longer 20 yards. It was a 20-yard run right to the right side. Opening of the third quarter, boom. They came out and gave it to him. Then this other gentleman, he was more with his hands. He's a running back out the backfield, but he had a nice catch. This is Tua Taioa, running back out of Nevada. 5 attempts to 13 yards, but he had 3 targets on 3 receptions for 44 yards. He had a longer 34 at the end, literally end of the second quarter, right up the gut. Beautifully done. Now, wide receiving side catches. He didn't go big, but he's a URI guy and he's local, and that's a wide receiver, Ed Lee. I had to put him in. He had 1 rushing attempt for 4 yards. He was targeted twice, 1 reception for 6. This gentleman out of San Jose State, Elijah Cooks, the wide receiver, he had 2 targets, 2 receptions for 40 yards. He had a longer 35 that came in the second quarter for Morgan, deep down the right side. It was a beautifully thrown ball by Tanner Morgan, and Cooks just reeled it in right down the right sideline. This is tight end, Michael Ikezi out of UCLA. He had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 23 yards. He had a touchdown. It was a 20-yard touchdown in the mid-third quarter. Right down the middle from Ahlers. It was beautifully done. Nice touchdown. Caught it. Got banged. Beautiful. On the defensive side of the ball for them, we had DJ Coleman out of Missouri. Defensive end, he had 5 tackles a solo, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. Gentleman out of Toledo, linebacker Deontay Johnson. He had 2 tackles, solo tackle, and a half tackle for loss. And then gentleman out of Arizona, linebacker Jalen Harris, he had 2 tackles, a solo tackle, and a pick. Now, on the other side of the ball, you had mentioned Mike Smith. He was the coach for Team Akia. Man, he needed to change things up, and he couldn't get it done. They only had 181 yards of offense.
That's bad.
And they held the ball for 16 minutes.
16 minutes?
16 minutes.
What?
Yes. 43-16. Terrible.
That's terrible.
So, yeah. So, QBs, though, for them on the other side was Chase Bryant out of App State. He was 2 for 7 for 14 yards. And that guy, Adrian Martinez from Kansas State, went 4 for 6 for 47 yards. He did have a touchdown pass, and he was 67% on completion rate. Now, the running backs, a couple names you might know. Kalen LeBron, from Marshall. He had 5 attempts for 32 yards. He averaged 6.4 yards per carry. He had a longer 17 yards. That was in the second quarter up the right side. UCF running back Isaiah Bowser, which we mentioned a couple times because they played Tulane a few times this year. He had 4 attempts for 6 yards. He had a longer 4. A gentleman I like didn't get used much in this game, and I think if he gets a combine invite, he could get some buzz. That's a running back out of Cincinnati. That's Charles McClellan. He had 1 attempt for 4 yards. The gentleman ran for 1,000 yards, sneakily under the radar. Nobody's really talking about him, and I think that's why he got the Hula Bowl invite. He's a guy to look out for. I think if he gets an invite to the combine, he could do. The gentleman out of Kansas City, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Number 10, I know who you're
Isaiah
talking
Pacheco.
about. Yeah, there we go.
Yes, he could maybe. I'm not saying that's success right off the rip, but there's a chance that he could be, a guy like that.
Right.
Now, this gentleman you might not know, but I'm gonna brief you on him. It's a wide receiver out of Kansas State. His name is Cade Warner. His dad is Kurt Warner. Okay.
Seriously.
Facts. Big facts. Okay. His father is Kurt Warner. And Kurt's been a big advocate for his son all year. I follow him on Twitter. Yeah, he was at the last couple of home games to Kansas State. He had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 25 yards. He had a long of 19. He had 10 yards of yak, right? 5 minutes left in the second quarter. He took a nice 19-yard pass from Martinez straight down the line, made a little juke move, got tackled. But the kid, he is like, Slade Bolden out of Alabama, right? He was a dude. Cade Warner is a better Slade Bolden.
Oh, wow.
Bolden made it to the Ravens. I think this kid could have a shot. He might be a UDFA. You know what I mean? He could be a 7th rounder, but I think there's a chance this kid could possibly make the league somewhere, maybe this year or next year. Name to look out for him. Like I said, the pedigree is there, right? Another wide receiver was Ryan Miller out of Furman. He had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 15 yards. He caught a touchdown pass from Martinez. And then this gentleman, they targeted him quite a few times. That's Trey Stropshire out of Alabama, Birmingham. You may not know who he is, but you will today. 5 targets. He had 1 reception for 78 yards, a touchdown at the end of the third quarter. He took from QB Tim Deramont out of Fordham University. Listen, the dude got some wheels. And it's a guy you might want to take a look at, watch him film on. Tight end Julian Hill out of Campbell had 1 target, 1 reception for 13 yards. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, right, guy out of Wake Forest, I spoke about a few times. He had 100 tackles. That's linebacker Ryan Samita Jr. He had 7 in this game, 4 solo. Another guy out of Campbell, defensive end Brevin Allen. He had 6 tackles, 3 solo, and 1.5 tackles for loss. We spoke about Louisiana Tech. Well, this is in that same division. That's Middle Tennessee. Defensive end Jordan Ferguson. This is a guy I think could make the league, man. He's going to draw some buzz. 5 tackles, 3 solo, a sack, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. If that stat sheet don't get guys looking at him,
he had a game.
I don't know what does. Yeah, he had a game. Now, I truly feel this is a guy you're going to hear a little bit more about come closer to combine draft time. And then this is another guy, reminds me a little bit of a gentleman from New England, right? Kyle Duggar. And it's safety Avery Young out of Rutgers. He had 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, and 2 pass breaks.
He's a good ball player.
Yeah, those are my guys. That's my highlights from the Hula Bowl. What are your thoughts?
I think the biggest news coming from this game, we obviously got very minimal offensive power, but that's not what this game's about. This game's about getting guys extra looks, putting them with other guys that are fighting to get to the NFL, and it's gonna be scrappy from here on out for a lot of these players. So they're gonna have to perform. But the best thing was, like you said in the opening, is how the organizations all showed out across various professional leagues. Of course, the NFL is the goal, but there's other league. There's not one route to having success. There's a few routes. You can go CFL, you can go XFL, you can go What's the other league?
Look at
AFL.
PJ Walker. Look at PJ Walker. Right. 2 years in the NFL, playing, starting multiple games. He's probably started over 10 games in 2 years. He's doing his thing. There's been plenty of guys that have come over and had success in the CFL, the USFL this year. Turpin, right? Turpin for Dallas, kick returner. He's taking. I think he might even take one to the house. I had 2 big ones that set them up to win games. So these guys, it's a stepping stone. It's literally like AAA.
Yeah. So don't count these guys out. I'm wondering, out of the 3 bigger quarterbacks you mentioned, Tanner Morgan, Sean Clifford, and Adrian Martinez, you think any of them get drafted?
See, so like, if I was to say that Martinez gets drafted, I would have to say Clifford gets drafted because Clifford's got a better throwing arm, right? They're mobile guys.
Also got a better body of work.
Right, and in a better conference for longevity, right? Martinez had to move around a little bit.
Right.
And Clifford stood there, and you want to say, you could say however you want if you're a Penn State fan, he beat out Will Levis for the starting job at Penn State. Facts is facts, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. So, I think Clifford got a chance, maybe. I think Clifford is a guy that could be a journeyman backup, but could play. Like, dude, if and I'm not knocking these dudes, because you make the show, you make the show.
Right.
But if guys like Skylar Thompson, Anthony Brown out of Oregon are playing games in the NFL,
right.
Stetson Bennett and Sean Clifford, like those guys could play in the NFL.
For sure. I think everybody's now going to be looking for the next Brock Purdy. That you're going to see teams start to fish in the 7th round, the 6th round.
Don't get me started. I you know how I feel about Purdy, right? I'm not saying Purdy's God, or Purdy's Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
But listen. Oh, he threw 3 touchdowns, but they were all 10-yard touchdowns. I don't want to hear it. Right?
He's doing it in the show, like you said.
And he flipped on the fly, bro. He looked like the Mr. Irrelevant 7th round pick in that first half. Came back in the second half and blew the doors off.
He did.
All right. He made every right read. And when you got guys like Fred Warner, who was the vocal dude on the defense, saying we wouldn't be in this position to win it all if it wasn't for Brock Purdy. The offensive guys say what they got to say because they want the ball.
Right.
Fred ain't got to say shit to get the ball. He's just gonna light him up. And he even said it in practices, right? Leading up into this week and the week before. Fred was like, I know he can take it. So I was in his arm like, Purdy, you can't come at me. Don't test me. He said he tested me twice and they went 50-50. He's like, the kid's got it. He's like, you see guys walk around that have that the thing they talk about is it. He's like, Purdy's got it.
You can't put your finger on it, but it's just it.
You don't think that Trey Lance is watching?
Oh, he has to be watching.
Bro, I don't want to. He's got the most draft stock. He's got the most draft stock with the smallest sample size. Brock Purdy went to the Big 12 and threw for 3,500 yards twice, over 25 touchdowns. Like, come on.
Yeah, if it wasn't for a poor season his last year in Iowa State, he wouldn't have got drafted that late. He probably would have had more success coming out after his junior year.
They still threw for over 3,400 yards.
Right. It's just that,
interceptions were high, and
they lost some games that they shouldn't have lost.